Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Okay, let's go over to Nigeria this evening and say hello, good evening to Oluwakemi. You have had quite the inspirational life story so far, and you're doing a lot to help blind people all over the world, and you're just quite a character around the community. So basically, I will ask you the question that I ask everybody else around the world. Who is Oluwakemi? And I will certainly mute my microphone and listen to you for the next hour or so and go through your whole life story, telling us everything you want me to know and don't tell anything you don't want me to repeat. So go for it. Welcome aboard.
Okay, awesome. Great connecting and joining on Aaron's opinion. All right, so Oluwakemi is my name. My surname is Odusoya, and basically I'm from Nigeria. I'm from the Yoruba culture. I reside in Lagos, and I'm a female with visual impairment. And I am also a gender and disability inclusion advocate. This is one very great commitment I have due to my lived and professional experience for over 19 years. I have had visual impairment, and this journey was kind of like a bit tweakish. What I mean by that is I wasn't born blind. And at the age of 13, I started developing some eye issues. I went for surgery. After that, it led to complications. I had to stop school. I was in science department in my senior secondary school too. That's in the high school too. And gradually everything just went blank. And I was wondering, would I be able to? How am I going to? When is it going to be? Those questions keep, flooding my mind, especially the fact that I'm a female child and the first of my family in a country that is more patriarchal, Nigeria to be specific. So the reality started and we started looking for alternatives. At first, it wasn't easy because we didn't even know that there are institutes or schools that could accommodate me regardless of my impairment. So in the midst of tears of my mother, my father, pains and all of that, we met someone who said, why not? She could go back to school. So that's why I found Pacelli. I didn't even know that such rehabilitation center existed. So I went back to school through the aid of Pacelli School for the Blind and Partially Sighted Children, one of the best, if not the best, in Nigeria. And it was quite fun. I recall the very first time when I saw Braille, I was like, what is this? Because it's kind of like represented. There's this dish called gari. It's like cassava grain. So when I saw it, I was like, who poured this on the paper? Because I didn't know it was Braille. Then gradually I started adjusting to life. I started getting to know how to use the typewriter independently. And prior to then, do you know that I could actually use the computer because my father owned a business center. So I could type for clients and all of that. But when the eyesight started, I then have to adjust by learning the use of screen reader. So it was quite fun for me, a new environment, new people. The fact that I had to go to boarding school for the very first time, I was so excited. But hey, that's the reality of Oluwakemi. And gradually I went back to school, University of Lagos, to have my bachelor's and in mass communication. So I developed a passion to want to create a narrative of inclusion, a narrative where people, regardless of their gender, disability, race, culture, can be accepted. And I did drive that passion through the establishment of, a program on radio. That's the campus radio, then called Dialogue with the Specials, where we had to talk about disability inclusion, to change the narrative, where we prefer solutions on management, prevention, cure. I mean, if there is, majorly on managerial, steps on how to assist or accommodate persons with disabilities, in various programming. So that's what I did for over 3 years, and it was quite fun. It's really, really quite fun. And Oluwakemi is, I would like to say that I am, for visually impaired person, or for those who are wondering who is this person, I would like to say I'm dark and chocolate in complexion. I'm 5'4", feet. And I'm an extrovert kind of, but an extrovert with a shy, shy personality. I'm a bit shy at times. And I love presentations. I love broadcasting. Like, that's one passion about me. I love presentation. I love podcasting or broadcasting, with either of the two. I love traveling. I love meeting people. I love getting to, crack solutions, getting to crack problems and bringing out solution out of it. And that is why I call myself the queen of the eagles, your royal flyness. Yep. So gradually in the midst of that, I saw that there is this disconnect between the female folk and the male folk in the disability space. Like I said, I've worked in, the development sector for quite a while within the disability community, and I've led, I've facilitated, I've organized programs that has to do with disability inclusion or mainstreaming disability in both the private and public sector. And I realized that, hey, when it comes to programming, you see a lot of men with disabilities. You see men with vision impairment coming out there, both young and old. But hey, where are the females? Where are people like me? We are less included. And this is not, sometimes it might not be intentional from the angle of the organizers. Most cases, it is women with disabilities, young females with disabilities that sometimes get shrinked and lost within our comfortable zone. We are very timid. We are comfortable with the little we have. We do not want to go out there. So that's why in Nigeria, one day I just sat down. I was like, what exactly? How many women with vision impairment can I count in leadership position? I recall, when I went for this leadership programming at Kantari in South India, and I was like, I needed to start an initiative drawn from my experience, from what I've seen, from the reality of people. And I was like, why not? If not, why not start Eagle's Voice? That's where Eagle's Voice came on board. Thanks to everyone who helped out, Sabri and every other person. And I was like, Eagle's Voice is an initiative where the blind and partially sighted women with an extension of other disability can get to be empowered with basic skills to enable them actively participate in leadership roles and even attain such roles, right? You find less women with disabilities in managerial positions, even within the private sector, the public sector. Most of the persons with disability who own these leadership positions are men with disabilities. And we're like, why? Why not bring forth this idea and ensure that the skills that I have, coupled with other persons, we can give the voice to women with disabilities. And that was how we started Eagle's Voice Initiative, where we are the voice. We create a space, we break the bias, we break the barriers that exist or that wants to even exist and stop women with disabilities from participating. So that's how we started. And gradually, like I said, I love podcasting. I love presentation. I also started like a social media series called Eagles Perch, where we comfortably dialogue, digress, talk about everything, anything that has to do with inclusion, women, and topics that are not talked about. So I have a social media series on my account and on my Facebook, sometimes LinkedIn as well. And we're moving to YouTube as well to talk, to bring on people on board, and let's talk about these initiatives or what they are up to in terms of disability inclusion. Yep. I hope I've not spoken too much. So that's just what, your royal flyness is. Thank you.
You know, it is absolutely impossible to speak too much here on Aaron's Opinion, and I want you to speak too much. That's my goal, to get you to not stop talking. That's my absolute goal. Um, where to begin? Well, absolutely. I completely support everything you've just said. I think it's all really, really cool and really good. Absolutely. And being a Canterbury graduate, being a Canterbury alum, that is a tremendous, tremendous thing to be able to have done that. I do know what it is, but why don't you go through, and for those who are a little bit less familiar, why don't you start out by walking us through what is Canterbury? How did you find out about it? And what was your experience going to India, going to Kerala, I believe? Really walk through that whole amazing experience. Go for it.
Awesome. So Kantari was or is an initiative where we have social change makers from all across the world, right? Who are 22 years old and above. Kantari is an institute that is not discriminative of your gender, of your disability, or your education qualification. So it's a place where you have a lot of persons who are social driven come together and want to learn, where you yearn for more. So, and it's based in South India, Kerala, as you said. Yes, it's based in South India. It's an initiative of Sabri and Paul, who, saw the need to bring forth other young, vibrant, old, individuals who are just desire to learn more, desire to want to, take the bite. So Kantari is like a pepper. It's something like a pepper, it's spicy. It's like a seed that grows at the back of Kerala. And when you take a bite, it's just like it has this chili, it motivates you to want to do more. So I guess that's how Kantari came to be. And I went to Kantari in 2022. So I'm a 2022 Kantari graduate alum. And I met with a lot of individuals, both persons with disabilities, without disabilities, several projects on board in terms of conservation, peace, disability, a lot of projects, menstrual cycle, a lot of projects was birthed from Kantari. And I came back, I was like, no, the vibe, the commitment must not die like that. I have to come back to my country to bring forth these ideas, to bring forth this life. And that's how Eagle's voice came to be through my experience. It was a 7 month, process in India, 7 month on-site campus intensive experimental practical experience where we would go for on-site visits. We would also have practical exercise. We had catalysts who are facilitators, who are also international driven individuals who are experienced. And guess what? They are also young, they are vibrant, they are committed. So we had a lot of experience both locally, nationally, and internationally. And those were, part of the exchange that gave vibrancy to the passion that I have today. And Kantari is, it's an institute, like I said, that accommodates all social anybody who desires a change. Either you're working in an NGO, or you want to start up your social venture, you want to start up your profit organization, and you're just yearning, you want to learn more. That's what Kantari is. And it's for free, right? Although you have to pass through several stages. As much as it is free, there are some things you also, need to commit to as well. Everything is on their website. You can get more information at kantari.org and you get more information about that. But I tell you, that was where the change, where the washing machine setting came up, where the rebirth came up, and it was actually, it is actually fun because at the end of it all, coming home, I could also exchange with other, alum who could talk about our experiences, how best we could collaborate, how best we can become, unique within our space. So that is what Kantari is. That was what Beth Eagles Voice Initiative.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So in can theory, that's where you got your start. That's where you got all this inspiration to
Yep.
start your organization. Really, really good. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard of Sabria and Paul, and I've heard of the organization. The organization is absolutely very, very, very well known globally. So that's really, really cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk more about that off air. That's super spectacular. Yeah, really good. Yeah. What was your, I'm just purely curious, when you were in India, what was your like perception of India and what did you think of Kerala when you were there?
Ah, also, when I was in India, at first I was like, how am I going to cope? And I'm someone that, I just love meeting people. So we started making friends,
Hmm.
shout out Deepu. We had Indian friends. We could go out. The food was you know, nice. Although at a point I was like, will I be able to do this for 7 months, missing my local dishes? I was out of pepper for a while, out of chili for a while, and it was really nice. India is a cool place, and for me, India's weather is like that of Nigeria. So it wasn't like I was even away from Nigeria. It was the same kind of weather, the same kind of environment. I had a lot of people. And one thing about Kantari is that, especially for persons with visual impairment, it will mold you to gain that independence. It will bring forth that confidence within you. Because if you are someone that usually depends on someone in Kantari, when you see Sabri, also a visually impaired person, you will be motivated to want to do more. Like, no, I have to break this. So Kantari and India itself as a whole, one culture shock I had when I got to India was, when you're saying something like, oh, how are you? Or you're trying to communicate, you see Indian people or Kerala, I don't know if it's Kerala or India generally, they nod their head like in affirmation. But me that I cannot see, I'm like, you are not answering me, not knowing that they were already nodding. But they are always happy to be of assistance. So, and Kerala is like a village within India, and it was fun, I tell you. It was really fun. Another thing is, the existence of mammals, like animals around. In India then, or in Kentari, we had, school dogs, school, companion. We had, a lot of them, and it was quite fun. Like I said, India generally the weather was not, different. And in Kentari, in case you're wondering, oh, how were you able to cope with the food? It was quite nice because we had intercontinental chef who could cook diverse dish, so we didn't have to really miss home. There was vegetarian food, there was non-vegetarian food, and so it was like a mix of a dish, and language was not a barrier. So it was really fun. So India as well, the people were fun to meet. When you want to go to the bus stop and you see there is this something they call tricycle, they call it tuk-tuk, right? So when tuk-tuk is wanting to help you, they are just nice and fun. However, you could have some kind of issues if you do not understand their language, and you go to buy something in the store, a mat, where language might be an issue by that time. I do not know how you're going to do by then, but India generally is actually nice. The hospital, in terms of accident, whenever there are accident, compared to where I'm coming from, Nigeria, whenever there are accident, you could quickly rush the individual to the hospital. There are always standby doctors and all of that. It was fun. It was really fun. Yeah.
Well, that's really, really, really wonderful. Just one moment. That's really, really excellent. Yeah, we've been hearing a lot about this Kerala place. Anyway, though, that's super, super good that you had that experience, and so you stayed there for 7 months, and then what happened? And then you came back to Nigeria, and you were able to start your organization. So after Kerala, then what happened after you came back to Nigeria?
Okay, so at first, actually, Kantari is like it's a 1 year institute course. So we had 3 months while on we had from April, I think it was 1 month, yeah, 1 month in Nigeria. The course starts in April. Then in May we go to Kantari and come back in December. Then when you come back, you have your last lap of the course which is from January to March. So eventually, so the course came to an end in March because we had 4 months, on site and 7 months, um, what's it called now? I mean, 4 months online and 7 months on site, right? So it was quite fun. And when I came back in 2023, Nigeria had a lot of like changes in terms of, that was the political year, that was the election year, and things were a bit, dicey. So I had to like implement a pilot project based on the knowledge I have acquired in Kentari. So I implemented a pilot project with an association of mine, which I belong, that's Nigeria Association of the Blind. So we had this, pilot project with support from the International Blind Football Federation. So I had to run, facilitate a 2 month on-site training for 10 visually impaired ladies within the Lagos metropolis. And we taught them on capacity building in areas of computer proficiency, emotional intelligence, and orientation mobility using the white cane. So at that point, I helped them understand, based on the knowledge I've acquired, I now understand the depths, the reason, the factors that causes an exclusion within, women with disabilities or even the blind in the first instance. So by then I didn't need the assessment. I could, ask questions. What exactly, why are you not in leadership roles? So I got a lot of response and we started that project. That project we had, one of the participants is a participant that actually acquired blindness in COVID year, that's 2020. And she was even in tertiary institute. She was in college then when our visual impairment came in as a result of illness and all that. And coming to, that training was really an eye opener for her. She was one of the participants and she started learning how to use computer, started learning how to be leaders. She started learning, in fact, at a point throughout the 2 months, it was her brother that was always bringing her to training center, her brother and her mother. So at the end of the training, she was like, "Oh, do you know what, Eagle?" Because they call me Eagle, right? She was like, "Eagle, let me just go home myself. Let me try." I was like, "Are you sure you can do this?" Because we've already trained her, and she was excited to do it. So she bought on the bus on herself. We gave her the white cane to go. So she got home, and this lady was really screaming loud that, "Yeah, I did it. The joy that fills your heart after being at home for over 2 years, unable to work on your own, unable to do things on your own. You have to depend solely on people. And the ability to not want to leave your, comfort zone to training center on your own. However, that did not come easy because by the time she got home, she got a lot of, back and forth from her parent. Why do you have to do this alone? Would come and pick you up. Why do you have to do that? But the bias, the idea is she was confident and was happy that she was able to do it. She was so excited that, hey, I myself, I was really excited with her. Like someone from 2020 down to 2023, being dependent, and now you are able to come out of your shell. So fast forward into, I think, sometime 2 months after the program ended in June, she sat for our University Tertiary Matriculation Examination, that's UTME, to gain admission into university because she was already in university when her eyes started and she was studying medical laboratory science, which is not possible at the moment in Nigeria for a visually impaired person. It's a bit difficult, especially when you have to mix chemicals and all of that. So she deferred her school, initial school and all. So she had to sit for an entrance examination back into university with the knowledge she has had from the program we conducted after going through lessons, several coaches and all that. And she sat for this examination. The examination, normally, the total score is 400. And believe you me, with just 2 months training and perseverance and resilience, this lady bagged 319 out of 404. This was really exciting for me and the team. We were like, "What? You did this!" And she gained admission into the University of Lagos to study psychology. And at the moment, she's even on first class degree right now for our first semester examination. So this is to tell you that, resilience, determination, actually pays. And the fact that you are also being trained or you are receiving your training from someone who is passionate, someone who also understands the existing factors that could make women with disabilities, lay back, someone who is ready to break that bias that, the cultural mindset that people feel if you're a woman with a disability, you should be most excluded because you have double jeopardy. That's like a double jeopardy in Nigeria, especially if you even come from some certain geographical, regions in Nigeria. It's worse because they count women as weaker vessels. Some, people see women as domestic chores. They see women as people who are not skilled and should not even be trained further. So imagine you seeing women in that light, then the woman that has a disability, it's a multifaceted discrimination. So I was really glad when I saw her. I think I saw about 2 days, no, last week in school, and she told me, "Hey, I got 5.0. I'm in first class degree." I was like, "What? You could do this?" That's determination. So it was really nice, and I'm really glad. And there is no one that, after that in 2023, we also, coming back, like I said, I also pushed in for seed grants, with support from the pollination project. We got a $1,000 seed grant to implement the same project specifically for, my alma mater. It's a government secondary school. However, there was a little bit of issue because of the situation. Remember, I told you when I came back to Nigeria, there was this political instability, which affected also cash. There was also currency crunch. There was a lot of things. So there were several activities that could not be done outside or in the rural setting. So I had to change the idea and move it back within the, university terrain. That's University of Lagos. So we had the project there, a 2-month project. And I tell you, during the registration of this project, we call it the Break the Bias project. During the process, we found out that the persons or candidates who showed interest, we had less number of women, and those were our targeted beneficiaries. We had less number of women. So at that point I was like, what will happen? This has to be done. So I had to go to University of Lagos, seek the consent of the association, that's the National Association of Nigerian Visually Impaired Students, University of Lagos chapter. And I, had a head talk with the president there. So we kind of opened and adjusted because, hey, the project is flexible. We adjusted to accommodate the men folk. And when this project started, at first people were skeptical, what will happen, how will it be? When it started and they started seeing the changes, we made them undergo training on Microsoft Word, Excel, self-confidence, public speaking, etc. I tell you, it was really wild. At that point, when we started, after a week, you need to see the number of females with visual impairment that were asking, please, can I join? Please, can I do this? And I was like, why not? It's because of you we are here. And at the end of it all, we were able to graduate about 20, persons with visual impairment who sailed through the course. And it was really, really, really wonderful because at that point, before the course started, we realized that not even we had minimal number out of 20, just 2 or 3 persons could only know how to download documents on their computer with screen readers. There was this lag, there was this exclusion. People could not, use the computer effectively. When we were teaching the formatting class, they were like, wow, you mean I could edit my documents? And I was like, wow, this is really, really interesting. At this age and time, visually impaired people are not literate when it comes to computer literacy. So I was gingered. This drove my passion further. So we conducted the program. We did that of on-site, we did that of virtual, and we rounded off the program, and it was really exciting. And we look forward to, doing more, expanding this knowledge. And in 2020, the program ended in 2024. So in 2025, I was like, we need to continue this thing. We need to put more advocacy. In 2024, we started the social media online series that I talked about, Eagle's Perch. If you go to my Instagram handle, I am underscore Radio Eagle, you will see several series where we had interviews with, industry leaders, disability inclusion specialists, talking about their experiences. You can go there, www.instagram.com/I am underscore Radio Eagle. That's my handle. You see several. And we are also starting another series right now on my Facebook account, Oluwakemi Odusoya. You would also see it there. Or you just search for Eagles Perch. You'll see it there as well. So on that, we started off the social media series in 2024. We ended up in October. Then this year, I was like, I needed to do more. I was yearning to change the narrative. Remember, my major focus is especially has to do with the women folk. So this year, coupled with my birthday, which is March 13, and in honor to also mark the International Women's Day, we had a day session to demystify, to talk about, just like about 3 hour session to talk about sexual and reproductive health rights for women with disabilities. That happened on March 13th with support of friends, family. We got products from, from Nivea, specifically women product, body creams and lotion. And that was really a very interesting experience, March 13th specifically. Then we saw that there is also a need more. We need to go back to the rural areas, rural area, which are area people do not talk about. People do not look into that aspect, right? So we went to Oyo State. It's a rural area in Nigeria. Conducted a 3 days social inclusion skills training, specifically for 40 young women with disabilities, right, between 18 to 35 years. And it was massive. I tell you, these 2 programs, we did not have any fund, but hey, the determination kept pushing me that I have to do something. I do not have money, but I'm just determined, and I'm really open to people, organizations, individuals that want to also partner. I am very much open. I am big on partnership. So we went to Oyo State and we delivered a 3-day social inclusion training with a focus on public speaking, CV writing, social media presence, sexual and reproductive health rights, and also self-discovery. So those were our major targets on that 3 days program. We had it from May 7 to May 9, 2025. And since then, we are still yearning. We're still desirous to expand this particular project. The project, then we called it 40 Wings. That's 40 women inspired for growth through skills. Yes. Right now, we are looking at breaking, going beyond the boundaries of this 40 Wings and expanding to other areas, other cities, other urban, other rural areas. And we are open and looking forward to the change that we desire. Women with disabilities, young women need to break and change the narrative.
You are so right. You are 101% right. I've spoken, Oluwakemi, I've spoken to a lot of people all over the world. And certainly I've spoken to a lot of people in countries in Africa. And what you're saying sounds very, very relatable to me and very familiar, actually. We have many listeners, as you know, here at Aaron's Opinion from Nigeria and from South Africa and countries all over Africa. And I keep hearing the same thing because it's true. You're absolutely right. We need to include women with disabilities, and we need to get them, as you say, to believe in themselves and to be productive members of society. You are so right. So soon, after this recording, you'll be introduced to many members of the Aaron's Opinion family from all over the world. One moment. And at that point, you'll be able to speak to all these various people that I know from, all over the world. But so have you worked with other countries around Africa who are also trying to get people with disabilities and women with disabilities to start, participating in their society? What other countries around the world, especially around the continent of Africa, have you been working with? Because, a lot of countries around the world have this problem, not just countries in Africa, but what other countries in Africa have you worked with about these various initiatives? And they're all great ideas, by the way. Tell me.
Thank you. So in Africa, unfortunately, no, we've not worked with any other country in Africa. But like I said, I am very much open, sincerely open to, partnership, open to us working with people. But you would agree with me that in Africa is more prominent when it comes to the exclusion of women, with disabilities in leader. I am very particular about leadership roles, right? Yes, you could, be a man with disabilities, but when it comes to leadership role, women with disabilities are more excluded due to several factors. So at the moment, we've not worked with any other country, but we're very much open.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, really good, really, really good. Absolutely, this is a problem all over the world, but you're right, it's especially prevalent in Africa. Absolutely, yeah. And what are some of the, really to break it down for us, for those who don't know or those who want to learn about it? And in my case, I want to learn more about this. So what are the specific factors, and this will lead into us talking more about, what goes on, in Nigerian society, but what are the factors in Nigeria that have led, in the past to women being, excluded quite this much, and all Nigerians who have been on the show have told me that there are many factors in Nigeria. So really, what goes on there? What are the factors from your perspective?
So in Nigeria, we have cultural factor. Number one, some culture would see women as weaker vessels. They see women as feeble, right? You cannot do some certain courses. You cannot do some certain discipline like engineering. You cannot do some certain things like women are they will tell you, or you get to see that women are very good when it comes to domestic work or in the farm or in the kitchen. That's all that they should. Some will tell you that a woman cannot lord, they call it lord over men, that you cannot own some, authoritative or some positions or roles, right? So they see it as a disrespect. And another factor is attitude, right? Like, when there is a cultural factor, definitely leads to attitude. When they see women, there is this high rate of chauvinistic attitude. And, when it comes to women in general, now more pronounced when it's women with a disability. And even some cases, I've heard of cases of women with disabilities who are pregnant and go to hospitals, and the health practitioners or service providers will tell you, how do you do? Who did this? Who did this to you? Who is that stupid person that did this? Didn't they look at you? Didn't they pity your condition? And I'm like, you mean women with disabilities are not eligible to have sex? Is that what you're saying? You mean women with disabilities are not eligible to family planning? You mean women with disabilities are not eligible to contribute when it comes to matters that directly affect them? So, and some, factors as well. We've had cases of, a deaf woman that I know of specifically who had to get married, and her mother was telling her you should even be grateful that you saw someone who could marry you. When she was facing domestic violence, the husband would beat her. In fact, at a point, yeah, I call it rape because it wasn't a consent. It wasn't consensual as much as, yeah, they are married, right? But the husband was still raping her. And the mother was like, you should be happy, you should be grateful that he sees you even with your condition and still wants you as his wife. Even when after the lady would have been beaten, gone back to the mother's house, the mother will have to push her back home. So all this, narrative. And to an extent, the mother could have been brought up from a family where women are seen as silence. When a man talks, a woman dare not to talk, right? So a lot of factors also contribute to it, and also lack of skills, right? Because at that point when they've beaten blue black on you, and if you see an opportunity to learn skills, do you think the person will be in the right frame of mind to do that? No. The person will be like, at the end of it all, if I learn all this social inclusion skills or transformative skills, at the end of it all, I would not have anything to do with it. I won't be employed. All those factors also eat deep into the knowledge or into the perception about the inclusion of women with disabilities. So that's why in any training, I am very much particular about the very first thing, which is the therapeutical stage, which is self-discovery. Because as much as we have all these projects flying here and there, digital inclusion programming, yes, this and that, we always tend to forget the major aspect, which is the therapeutical stage, the self-discovery. Some women with disabilities are even yet to accept that they have a disabilities. In a society where Nigeria, another factor is also religion. Oh my goodness. Where some people are very religious. I know of a case of a lady. The father is a pastor in a church. The child is deaf for over 26 years now. She has a sister. The church which they attend is an inclusive church where there are sign language interpreters, where they also accept persons with disabilities. But yet, the sister of this, they denied this child the ability to learn sign language because whenever you ask the sister, she will tell you, no, God forbid, my sister can hear, she can talk. And I'm like, are you living in denial? For over 26 years now, this lady is unable to read and write in sign language. Imagine she is being accosted or faces violence and she goes to report. Who would believe her? Or she can't even communicate with her peers who are also deaf because yes, you are practicing a religion and not spiritually in it, in a church where there are provisions for sign language interpreters, and you keep saying, no, my sister, God forbid, she can hear. Hey, baby girl, this is really painful and it breaks my heart because this person is a female. She's not going to be with the parent for life. She needs to go out there and sort for her own and fight for our own inclusion. And yet the parents, the sisters are saying, God forbid, she can hear. And yet the lady cannot still hear. Who are we deceiving? Are we deceiving ourselves or we are deceiving the society? No, you're causing more harm than even mending it. Because this lady is being shut out of everything. So even if there are organizations that want to employ her, because she's unable to sign, she's unable to communicate, right? We had to even force her and be able to go back to school. Now she's done with her university degree. The question is, what next? If she goes to an organization that is ready to employ her and she has not accepted that disability, that is a double jeopardy. So these factors and more are really eating deep into the confidence, because as much as it continually begins to increase the low self-esteem of these women. It increased the fact that they feel they are nothing, they are worthless. They feel that at the end of it all, we'll not have anyone that will get married to us. They feel at the end of it all, why should I go and, learn or study or even get to, participate actively, and by that they cannot participate. They see themselves as unequal with every other person. So all these factors combined together is really, really eating deep. Yes, you are blind, so what? You are deaf, you cannot speak. Beautiful. If not you, who will? There is a reason for everything. That's how I like to tackle things. There is a reason why you are blind. There is a reason why you cannot work. Yes, you are now in this situation. What next? We need to move out of our shells. We need to go away from the comfort zone. If everybody was comfortable in their space, we wouldn't have gotten to this particular extent that we are in. The world is going global. How many women with disabilities have the transferable skills, have transformational skills, have social skills that can make them work remotely? Sometimes when I, operate my laptop, I get to do some interviews and people are like, wow, how do you do this? So imagine they see me and they see me as a dependency structure. Do you think they want to be my friend? No. I like to challenge myself. I like to break the bias. I like to come out of the shell. And that's why there is a reason why I am called the Queen of the Eagles. There is a reason why I like to tag myself to the eagle, because of the attribute of an eagle. The eagle has this very powerful vision that says, very far. It sees 8 times of the human adults can see. The eagles, try to break, use the storm. I see the storm as a challenge. The storm as all those cultural beliefs, as all those social exclusion, as all those negative perception. Those are the storms. For an eagle, the eagle will not back down. But that storm is what the eagle keeps using to soar. So that's why I want other women with disabilities to see themselves as eagles. And it's not just by calling yourself an eagle, it's by doing, by working, by actionating that attribute of an eagle, the leadership vibe. And that's why, I am your royal flyness, because we do not stay one place. We do not get comfortable in our situation. Rather, we try to nurture our young ones. We try to bring up other young women with disabilities, regardless of age, my dearest, regardless of your location, right? Some persons see me, they hear me speaking, and I'm like, are you sure you cannot see? Are you sure you have a disability? I wrote on my page of recent, one of my stories when I was in university days. I love dancing, and I still do love dancing, right? Because when I was sighted, I was more into break dance, all this Michael Jackson, all the stunt dancing and all of that. And when this Hips Don't Lie by Shakira came out, we were all, hipping to that song, right? So I love dancing. And I remember when I was in university of Lagos, I contested for this, beauty pageant. And I'm like, what is beauty without no brain? Right? So I contested for this beauty pageant where I showed my community what I have, the skills of dance, because I love dancing, I love music, I love rapping. I just grabbed the mic. And fortunately for me, I was in a Bob Marley, hairdo, and I was just swaying my legs left, right. I was enjoying the beats. That's one thing about me. When I see a beat, oh my God, I freestyle, I get carried away, and everyone was like, are you sure this person cannot see? It is a lie. She can see, she knows what she's doing. And I'm like, baby boy, baby girl, no. I cannot see anything. So those are the narrative I want to change. When people feel that blind persons cannot dance, who says that? You can change your narrative. You can change what people think about you. Dancing is one thing I like to do. Meeting people is one thing I like to do. Don't let people feel that because you cannot see, you are dumb or you are daft. No. Use those hidden skills, bring it out to the world. And that's one thing I'm also looking up forward to, having like an academy where I have to teach blind people how to dance. Because hey, I've been in gatherings where I see blind people dance, and at times it's terrible. So I do understand the factor. Still, I'm like, yeah, we need to start up this thing. Even if it's just the little things we can do, let's make people understand that our blindness, our disabilities does not stop us. It rather elevates us to what we desire and where we want to be.
You are so correct about all of it. And I just cannot thank you enough for everything you're saying. I'm sure you saw the interesting philosophical quote on Facebook. I don't know who posted it, and it has since disappeared over time, but it's a very true statement that once a woman, got into a taxi, and the taxi driver was making all these nice accommodations and was being all polite. And the woman asks a philosophical question. She says to the driver, why are you so nice? And he said, because I stopped complaining. I'm like an eagle, he said. He rose above. And that's the other thing about an eagle, is that an eagle doesn't complain. They just soar above things. They rise upwards and they soar above. And that's a very distinctive point about an eagle. And you are very right about that. Yes. But you are so correct. And when people are unwilling to work with people with disabilities, when they're unwilling to, accommodate people with disabilities, really the entire society is what loses out. Oftentimes I always thought before I got into my teaching work and before I got interested in podcasting and this podcast realm, anytime I faced discrimination, I always felt in the past that, oh, this is my fault. This is my loss. And I've come to understand, no, it's really society's loss.
Yeah.
When you choose to not include someone, that's a society's loss, but But that is very, very interesting that you've noticed all of these various societal things. And I can tell you that even in the United States, these things are still happening. Certainly not as prevalently as they are in Nigeria, not in your country, but there are still problems even within America. There are still these issues, where people are faced with serious discrimination and things like that. It is a pretty common thing in America. So even in a even in every country has this very similar outlook on disability, and I'm just so glad that you're rising above to help people to realize that, hold on a second, that blind people do need to be included in society and things like that, and that they can, and that's a really, really important thing. So yeah, that's all really fascinating. And what can you tell me more specifically about, living in Lagos? I've spoken to people in, different parts of Nigeria, Iboland, Abuja, I believe. What can you tell me about living in Lagos and what you know about the city and the accessibility of the city? Talk more about, the environment where you actually live in Nigeria.
Living in Lagos is one of the beautiful things. Just like what our mantra is, center of excellence. That's the logo of Lagos. Excellence comes with a price. It comes with a lot of things. It comes with uncertainty. It comes with determination. Lagos is a very hard state. When I mean hard, I mean you have to work and work. You see people, they do not sleep. In fact, in my area, still around 11, you still see some cars, buses, lorries honking around 11. Sometimes some persons will tell you they can't live in Lagos because Lagos is like an hypertensive state because it's so busy. Yeah, that's the word. Lagos is a very busy state and you have a lot of industry. It is an industrialized kind of state. You have a lot of head offices of companies, organizations, in Lagos. So it's really busy. Accessibility wise, yes, some certain areas may be accessible, while some are worse when it comes to accessibility. The roads, yeah, some parts are tarred, while some are not even tarred. Some parts, they are even using their chasing water off and filling it. There's some filling some areas, which is definitely, I feel it's not right. So Lagos, it's a very busy state. We have some areas that are very waterlogged. We have some areas that are backward when it comes to inclusion. We have some areas that are doing well. We have some areas that are, the offices of banks, financial institutes, and also where I also stay, we have areas where we have the street boys, right? We have areas where we have street children. We have areas where we have thugs. So Lagos is an area where you need to be sharp. You need to get to be ready at all times. You don't need to get slack because anything can happen, right? So accessibility, like I said, some bridges are accessible. In fact, it's minimal though. Some are not. Lagos is a state that also has, or is the first state that domesticated the United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. We have even before the national date, because Lagos State had the Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs Office. Lagos State had the Lagos State Special People's Law in 2011. So there are a lot of things that happen in Lagos. They call it the mega city. Several things. We have buses. We have the BRT in Lagos, bus rapid transport system in Lagos. We have the tricycle. We call it Keke Napep. We have um, um, bicycle that we call them Okada. We have shopping centers in Lagos, a lot of them. We have cinema houses in Lagos, and the cinema houses, we have restaurants, and I'm like, when it comes to accessibility, there is zero, right? So you go to a restaurant, you cannot find menu in accessible formats. You can't find it either in braille. You can't even find it in soft copy that is accessible. So it is a zero. You go to religious houses, some are accessible, some are pretty accessible, some are not. right? So Lagos has a lot of things going on with her. It's populated. We have houses. We have some places you can have some dilapidated buildings. In some places you can have some very fancy buildings. I remember when I was doing a disability and accessibility audit for some organizations, and I'm like, wow, you see this floors, they are very fancy, but by the time you walk on it with heels, if you are not very careful, you can get an accident. And I'm like, this is where disability starts, because some persons are seeing some tiles, floors, they're like, oh, it's very beautiful, but hey, is it accessible? Is it about the beauty or about the sustainability? So a lot of things happen in Lagos. You have people going here and there. Lagos comprises of several ethnic groups together. We have the young, the old, the beautiful, the ugly, the fat, the slim. A lot of things happen. We have education institution as well in Lagos. We have the University of Lagos, which is a tertiary institute. We have colleges in Lagos. We have secondary. We have public and private and government institutes in Lagos. And we have several food. I can't really say this is a Lagos food. We have several food in Lagos. Yeah, we have the snacks. A lot of things actually happen in Lagos.
Very good. That's all excellent. Really, really good. Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to India, what other countries have you traveled to outside of Nigeria?
Okay, so I've traveled to South Africa. I've traveled to Egypt. Um, and I've traveled to India. Yeah, I look forward to going to maybe, European countries, also USA or Canada. I just so look forward to, and I'm also very big on fellowship, leadership, and hey, if you're out there, you have all this opportunity, please, I am your number one stop, space. Share with me. I'm very big on leadership, fellowships, and all of that.
Okay, well that's very good. By the way, we have a large following in South Africa. Many, many, many people from South Africa tune into Aaron's Opinion. So you'll be in smart company there. There's a lot of people from South Africa that we know here at Aaron's Opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Okay. Well, that's all really good. The other thing that I'm very, very passionate about in my own life as a language teacher is language acquisition. So your English is beautiful, by the way. You're a beautiful, beautiful speaker. So how many languages do you speak? I believe there's over 500 languages in Nigeria. How many languages do you speak, by the way?
Let me see. English, definitely. I speak, and there is it's like they call it broken English, pidgin. So
Pigeon.
it's
Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, pidgin. I speak Yoruba. I also I'm a basic sign language person. Nigerian Sign Language and a bit of American Sign Language. And I also before, I'm not very sure of my skills right now when it comes to Jamaica. I speak a little bit of patois.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what again now? I think that's just all. Yes.
Absolutely. 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 How does oftentimes there's always been a debate around the language community about if we change our thought processes in certain languages. So what do you think? Do you think through situations differently in Yuba to English or ASL to English? Do you think you solve problems differently if you're speaking or thinking a different language? What do you think?
So for me, I feel it's possible. So it depends on the kind of problem, like you said, that I'm solving.
Sure.
So I feel yeah there's some times where I get to mix both of them depending on the audience I'm trying to communicate with, and I float very well. So I'm not really sure. So for me it's either ways. I could serve when it comes to Yoruba. I could serve when it comes to English, depending on the audience and the kind of formality or the structure. Yeah, that's the word. The structure it's presents itself. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Being that I'm also a French speaker, I definitely think that we solve problems differently, different word order, a different way of thinking through the problem. So it definitely changes your mind when you're a bilingual person or in your case, multilingual. Absolutely. Really good. So, what are some questions and what are some things that you want to know about the United States, American people, American society? I'm sure you have questions for me about that.
Yeah. So some question could be,
Sure.
it could be like, what is, when it comes to mainstreaming disability
Hmm.
in the United States compared to Nigeria, where persons with disability have to really search, go hustle for work, and when you get to the workspace, they'll tell you, in fact, they look at your disability first before your skills. How is it like over there?
It really is also very difficult, just in a very different way. In my case, one moment, please. My parents and family had to fight very, very hard for me to obtain the education that I was able to get. It was very, very difficult. There is still discrimination in the United States, believe it or not. And I know that you might find this hard to believe, but even in America, there are still people who refuse to include people with disability. And it's causing a big, big problem because, as you know, as technology has developed, simple things like doing an interview like we're doing now has become a lot easier. And so, because of this, it's much easier for people with disabilities to participate in society. But the problem, as you well know, is that society still maintains their strange and their discriminatory opinions. And this really holds people back in the United States. And this is causing a lot of problems for many people. So the reality of it is in America, if you are educated at a university level, you might you might have some chance to be able to work in the public sector. But the discrimination, at least when I was trying to work for the public about 10 years ago, the discrimination was so severe that I had to just work for myself and build up my own business and kind of go into business for myself. And I don't really know if that's right or wrong, but it is what happened. And that is the reality of life in the United States, that you have to work for yourself. You have to work very, very hard, even in the United States. Um, but there's a lot of discrimination in the and there's also in the education field in the United States, there's a lot of corruption in the education field. There's a lot of political things and a lot of weird people and a lot of people who are not really interested in educating. They're interested in bureaucrating. Basically, they're bureaucrats. And I'm sure you know what a bureaucrat is, and that these bureaucrats cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. So I would say some blind people in America are working full time, like me. Um, but I would say that the statistics that you may have heard are probably more true than ever before. That at least 70 to 80% of the population of blind people in the United States is not working at all, or not working at all. And I think the statistic is about 95% of blind people are unemployed in the United States, even in America. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but these are the stats that I have found to be true after speaking to so many blind people. So does that answer your question, by the way?
Yes, it does. And I'm very, very surprised how that is actually possible. Because, the kind of notion we have about United States of America is like they have this, inclusion system, especially when it has to do with the American Disability Act and, a lot of things. I'm like very surprised about this. But hey, thank you. Another
Yeah,
question I would
sure.
like to is, when it comes to relationship or
Hmm.
love and intimacy, how is it like? Is it very easy for a blind person or person with I could talk about, depending on whichever you feel to talk about, maybe blind or person with disability. Is it very easy for one to get maybe a partner without disability, or you have more persons with disabilities, getting into relationship more with persons with disabilities? How is it like over there?
It's hard either way. So one of the things that tends to happen to blind people in America is oftentimes we can be taken advantage of by sighted people. So this is a very subtle thing that a lot of times, if you're blind and in America, you wouldn't want a sighted partner not because you would be afraid that you wouldn't love them, but because you would be afraid that the sighted person may have an ulterior motive to take advantage of you, and take advantage of your disability. So that is a very, very, very common problem. And this is a very, very serious problem in America right now, that this happens to many people with disabilities. And unfortunately, many people with disabilities are being taken advantage of by friends and family. And this is a rampant problem in the United States. So I would say the other factor, the other factor is distance. America, as you know, is a huge country, and we have 50 states. And oftentimes, unlike Nigeria, where you live in urban settings, most American people live out in the countryside. Although when you watch a movie or when you watch TV, America is depicted as a place where people live in apartment buildings and talk to people and interact. Although some people do live like that, most actually don't. Most Americans live very isolating lives, where you live with your family or you live by yourself for a much longer period of time. So, that's a huge factor too. Um, so in America, the other thing is it takes a long time to travel from place to place. So because of all these things and because of that, I would say that, it's incredibly difficult for people in America to find intimacy and to find intimacy in an appropriate and in a healthy way. It's very, 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 very difficult, even in America. Yes, that's true.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Great. All great questions. Absolutely. So where would you like to go, by the way, if you come to America, where would you go?
California. I look forward to that.
Why
California.
why do you have friends or family there? Do you know someone in California?
Yeah, I know someone in California. However, I heard it's like how do I put it? It's like one of the urban states. How true that is, I don't know. It's one of the urban states and has this high tech
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
stuff. It's like a tech city, and when it comes
Sure.
to blind persons, it could be a B. I don't know if it's gonna be easy, but at least the fact that it's like a tech city is one thing that drives me, and I really look forward to California. And yeah.
There are technical cities. There are tech hubs all over the country. California is one of them. You're right. The other one is, of course, Texas. There's a lot of high tech things in Texas and places like that. New York, of course. Many of the places out in the western part of the country are very high tech. I mean, you'll find, Oluwakemi, you'll find that in every state, you'll always have the high tech center. There's always the technologically advanced part of any city, anywhere, really. But yeah, that's what I can really tell you is that it all depends on where you are. I'll tell you that I've heard that California is very expensive, so it's very hard to live there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure though that blind people really like to live there because the cost of living in California is so outrageously high
Wow.
that it makes it hard for people to save even when they earn. So the economics of California don't really add up, you know.
Wow.
California is a very strange place now, and California has a lot of problems that they never had. And 30 years ago, California was totally different. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So I'm sure that you have a lot of questions about me and my background and my opinions of the world. So what do you really want to know about me? To really, as I always like to say, to really get under my skin and to really make me sweat. What do you really want to know about Aaron Richmond and or Aaron's opinion?
Okay, so what I want to know about Aaron is what is your perspective about women in general?
I mean, my perspective of women is that you're correct, that women need to be participating more. Women can participate more, and women do need to participate more. Certainly, yes, that's my perspective. We in America, we've seen a lot of different trends. As you know, our society started out in America hundreds of years ago. We began as well, similar to how Nigeria began, really an agricultural country. And yes, it used to be true that in the old times, in the past, it was the case that women stayed home and were homemakers. But today we don't believe that anymore. We know that women are capable and are working and are able to be out in society. And I think that's great. So that's generally my opinion. Yeah. Hmm.
Great. Thank you. So I would also like to ask, what is one of the worst moment of your life and one very happy moment of your life?
Yeah. One of the worst moments, I would say one of the worst moments of my life for sure was going through all of the discrimination that I faced in university and in education. I am someone who, and I'm not afraid to admit it because I speak what's on my mind. I speak from my heart just like you do. I am someone who actually has a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder about dealing with educators and dealing with university staff. So I'm one of these guys that, I'm not living in the same state where my university was, but if I came back to that state, I wouldn't even go into that city anymore. I know what town it's in. I won't even go into that town because I was so traumatized by the university. That was a really severe thing that, even anybody can face post-traumatic stress, and I certainly faced it with the educational sector in the United States. Um, but I would say that though that on on the flip side of all of that, the best thing that's happened to me is a couple of things. I've built up my bilingual persona. I've built up my French language skills. As you know, I've interviewed several French people in French before on the show, and that's something that I gives me an enormous amount of happiness in my own life to be a bilingual guy. I've spent a lot of time in France, interacting with a lot of people over the years. um, I can also tell you that another huge sense of happiness for me is my teaching business that I run now, my podcast, seeing that. And one of the things that I've been noticing about the podcast is that more people keep listening. So that's a great thing when you start out as a hobby, when you start a hobby and then you notice that over time more and more people are listening and more people are reaching out to me and interacting in a positive way. That's a clue that I'm doing the right thing and that this is a needed product. So I think the best part of everything is the podcast and the product that I have for you here at Aaron's Opinion.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And lastly,
Hmm.
what is your view about religion and yeah, religion and yeah.
Well, I mean, I will tell you one moment, please. I will tell you that I happen to be a Jewish guy. I'm Jewish, but I'm not really religious. My view on religion is that I think I know that there's I know that there's God and I know that there's a universe, and I'm happy with that. But I'm not a terribly religious guy, actually. You might have heard or you might have been led to believe that American people are overly religious, and sometimes that's true, but in more cases than not, although Americans welcome all religions, whether you're Jewish or Catholic or Christian or Muslim, Hindu, whatever, we welcome all the religions. But you'll find that at least in my estimation and opinion, that in the United States, most most people are not very religious at all anymore. I think we've really strayed away, as society has become as American society has become more, more liberal and more open and more, as we've changed as much as we have, we've really strayed away from, conservative views and religion and structure like that. So, if we were living 100 years ago, religion would be super important, and it still is important. But in America, most people are significantly less religious now, and more people are questioning religion more than ever before in America. Yeah. What about there, by the way, in Nigeria? Do most people go to church, or how do Nigerian people approach religion? Yeah.
Nigerians, we are very religious, right? So for me, I always say that it's not religion for me, it's more of the spirituality. That's the
Sure.
between you and your, divinity. So that's what it is for me. But in Nigeria, most people are so religious, and at the end of it all, what's the result? You find out that there is really a gap, right, in what they preach and what they believe and what they do as well. So yeah, Nigeria is very religious. You have
Hmm.
churches all around. Within a street, you can find about how many church or mosque, and also very religious we are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. That's great. I think if you find, as you know, and I'm sure you've studied it, that many people with disabilities feel excluded from religion and feel excluded from their churches. So I think if you find a good church or a good group of people who are blind and religious and they help you, I think that's great.
Yeah.
But this is a problem in America. A lot of blind people are afraid to go to church and they're afraid to ask for help with that. And that does, for religious people, that affects them. So that's a serious thing. That's a major issue that a lot of people feel excluded by religious leaders and feel uncomfortable. So that's one thing that you have to kind of know is that in America, a lot of people either are not religious or they are very religious or they are skeptical of religion. So it all depends on the person. And you never really can quite tell. Everybody's different in America. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, sure. Absolutely. Okay. So what are some other topics that you think we should cover today? I mean, I think we've covered it all. Is there any other topic that, you would really like to cover today before we walk to the end of a beautiful episode? What do you think?
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think for me, I think I've covered,
Sure,
almost in. Yeah. But lastly, my question would be for you is
sure.
what's the best meal?
My favorite. Hold on one second. Sure, my favorite meal ever. Well, I mean, I really love all French food. French food is delicious. So is Nigerian food. I love fufu, by the way. Yes, I know what it is. Yeah, Nigeria has delicious food. Absolutely. Yeah. And things like that. So, I mean, I love all food, Indian food, Thai food, all the food I love. Absolutely. But yeah, what about you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
love all food, a bit
Hmm.
of spicy, and I like rice. I like depending on I like Singapore noodles. I love all food. I love all food. I'm not really, but the kind of taste bud I could have for some might be different from any, but I can eat practically some kind of food. Yeah.
That's excellent. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, well, Oluwakemi, I got to say this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, as I knew it would be, and you absolutely delivered as I knew you would. So, what I want to know is this. So, you're doing incredible work, and all I wish for you is further success with your Flying Eagle stuff and all of your advocacy that you do for people in Nigeria and all the countries. I wish you. The only thing I hope for you is that you're successful, and we will certainly do everything in our power here at Aaron's Opinion to make sure that you're put in touch with other great people who will be able to help you along your journey to further your success. But of course, if somebody wants to get in touch with Oluwakemi, how can you be reached?
If you want to get in touch, very simple. You can look me up on Facebook, Oluwakemi Odusoya. That's Oluwakemi space Odusanya on Facebook, or you send me an email, Kemi Odusoya1 at gmail.com. That's KEMIODUSANYA figure one at gmail.com, or simply Eagles Voice NG at gmail.com. That's plural eagle. Eagles Voice NG, that's for Nigeria, at gmail.com. Or you go to Instagram, it is at I am underscore radio eagle. That's on Instagram and on X at I am underscore radio eagle. And you will get to connect with the Queen of the Eagles.
Her Royal Flyness.
Yep,
Absolutely.
you got it.
Absolutely. All right. All right. Well, Oluwakemi, it's been an absolute thrill and honor to have you on the show. And I'm curious. One moment here. Let me just get to the right place here. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I'm actually curious about something that sometimes I ask this, other times I don't. So have you listened to any episodes of Aaron's Opinion before coming here?
I'm actually not.
That's all
My
right. Quite all right. Totally fine. Okay. Well, because I was going to ask you, how do we end an episode? And I will tell you that we end it by saying, Oluwakemi. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are so welcome here in the future. And all I do is wish you further success. So thank you for sharing all of your stories and knowledge today. And of course, until next time, thank you so much, everybody. And as we say here at Aaron's Opinion, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.